All right, Jim. Well, before we wrap things up, a few rapid-fire Gordon Solie trivia questions, if you don't mind.
All right, rapidly.
Which wrestler, dubbed the Professor, watched in horror as a statue of him he had commissioned was smashed by an opponent?
Jesus Christ. That's hard to pin down. Professor Roy Shire, Professor Dale Lewis,
Professor Boris
Malenko. Okay, there we go.
Jim, true or false? According to the NWA rules, tag team mates must tag each other with only their hands.
You think? We've been talking about that one.
That's right. True or false? According to the NWA official rules, a tag team wrestler may tag out with his foot.
False.
Correct. False. You know a lot about tag team wrestling, sir.
I'll read a lot.
Normally, how many warnings will a referee give an opponent before he is disqualified?
2.
That is correct. Wow, good job there.
Because that was a Florida rule.
True or false? The maximum distance which a wrestler may be from his corner while tagging is often measured by a string located on the turnbuckles.
Correct, the tag rope.
That is true. True or false? See, this is bullshit. True or false? The Killer Bees are masked.
Well, they were for an angle.
That's right. Sometimes they were masked, so you can't really say no. Jim, is a lights out match wrestled in the dark?
No.
That is correct. No.
A lights out match, and again, an Eddie Graham invention that nobody understands how it started and don't do it properly anymore. But and somebody asked me, sent me an email when I was searching through emails trying to come up with some things to talk about. Somebody asked me, they sent me an email, said, well, how is it that they said that they're not responsible, the lights out match is not sanctioned so that if there's an injury, nobody will be responsible. And for once in storyline, like the kids say, because the guy said it doesn't seem like there was much responsibility on the part of the old-time territory promoters on the wrestlers' health and well-being. If they got injured, they were on their own or whatever. It's in storyline. Championship Wrestling from Florida is not going to sanction this match as a regular part of our standard professional wrestling event consisting of athletic contests, because these guys hate each other. There's no rules to this. It's going to get out of hand. Somebody could be injured. We will provide them with the ring to settle their issue, but we will not sanction the match, and we absolve ourselves of any responsibility if somebody gets hurt. That's so people will buy tickets to see somebody get hurt. That's the way and the lights out match, the rest of the card, including the advertised main event, took place, and then the ring lights were dimmed to show symbolically that was the end of the scheduled program, and then the ring lights came back up, and the non-sanctioned match came to the ring, and in some cases, the promoter would go so far as to not have the regular ring announcer announce it, and not even any of the standard staff at ringside that worked for the promotion. This is just, we're giving these guys this space to beat the shit out of each other. Have at it.
Name the gargantuan twin brother tag team who went from carnival sideshows. From carnival sideshows to the squared circle.
Well, Billy and Benny McGuire, but their real names were McCreary. So they used both.
How many chances do you have to win a 2-ring triple chance over the top rope battle royal?
Well, and who was buried in Grant's tomb? And some smartass said, actually, the answer is nobody, because nobody is buried in a tomb. They're entombed in it. But having said that, what was the question?
Having said that, let me grab the card. How many chances do you have to win a 2-ring triple chance over the top rope battle royal?
You got 3.
That is correct. Jim, true.
And to explain to the people, everybody starts in the first ring. And to be eliminated, you have to be thrown over the top rope into the second ring where a match starts all over again. And then you have to be thrown over the top rope to the floor to be eliminated from that. So that's a second chance. And then the last guy in each ring get in the same ring and have a single match until one of them wins, and that's your third chance.
Jim, woman wrestler Debbie Combs is a second-generation wrestler. Name her wrestler mother.
Cora.
True or false? Mike LeBron and Phil Lito in the 50s formed the original tag team of the Boeotians.
I have never heard any of those names, so I would say that would be false.
That is false. So let me put these ones over here. Fill in the blank. Blank lumberjack match. That's actually really, that's hard to figure out. A blank lumberjack. It's a Canadian lumberjack match, but you wouldn't.
Oh, okay. Well, and again, this is Florida-centric because obviously Gordon Solie was known primarily as the announcer of the Florida territory for so many years, even though he did Atlanta. And Joe LeDuc was huge in Florida and instituted the Canadian lumberjack match. So that's why that's regionally significant.
Who was the first publisher to devote an entire magazine to wrestling?
No.
See, this, I don't know if this is correct.
I was about to say, what is Gordon Solie's game going to say versus there were wrestling-only magazines in the 30s? What does he say?
And this is not correct, but Stanley West and London Publishing.
No, that's far from.
Which wrestling legend, credited with inventing the flying dropkick, died on March 15th, 1977 in New York City?
Well, wait a minute. He's talking about Rocca, right?
Correct.
But he didn't, well, he may have popularized, but didn't invent the flying dropkick. But he's talking about Argentina Rocca.
I think that's how I would put it, too. He popularized it in North America, but we don't know that he invented it. That's a hard thing to claim. Jim, see, this is a trick one. I mean, if you played this game with someone who didn't know anything about wrestling and they just went on the answers here, you'd flip out. Frank Gotch, true or false, Frank Gotch held the NWA World Heavyweight title twice, retiring undefeated in 1913.
Well, again, the NWA traces its lineage back to Frank Gotch with a fair amount of creative history rewriting, but it wasn't called that title. Frank Gotch was the world champion. He did hold the title twice because he did a business match with Fred Beal in 1906 and dropped it so he could win it back, and then did retire undefeated in 1913, but that's somewhat, as you mentioned, misleading.
True or false, Teddy Roosevelt was once a wrestler himself?
Well, there has been the story that Teddy, amongst the other manly activities that he liked, besides moose hunting and charging up San Juan Hill, liked to scuffle with the soldiers and things and the people at the White House, but he was never a paid professional, was he?
I don't believe so.
I don't think so.
True or false, George Washington, the first American president, was once a wrestler himself?
I refer to my comments on Teddy Roosevelt. I think, after they crossed the Delaware, they wanted to go a few falls on the other side just for sport and exercise, but it was not a coordinated career for Mr. Washington.
Which wrestler was married to the famous female athlete Babe Diedrichson?
George Zaharias.
That's right. Do you think fans today know who she is? I mean, forget about fans of wrestling, but fans of just sports.
Well, they every once in a while they do retrospectives on, especially in women's. Do they have a Women's Heritage Month or just Women's Month or Feminism Month or anything? Babe Diedrichson Zaharias was, I would think, the most publicized and most well-known female athlete in the United States of America from the 30s through the 50s or that range. I'm not as good on golf and all the various other sports that she conquered as I am on wrestling, but there was nobody more in the news as far as female professional athletes than Babe Diedrichson.
All right, a few more here. Whom did Harley Race defeat to win the NWA World Heavyweight title for the 5th time?
For the 5th time?
For the 5th time.
Shit.
I sat here, tried to think about it without looking. I was like, it is kind of tough to figure that out.
Was that one of the Japanese switches, or was that...
You know what? Just to keep this moving, it was indeed Giant Baba.
I was going to say it was either one of the last ones with Flair or Baba, and it was Baba.
And of course, Harley paid for that, right? He bought it outright or Baba bought it from him, not the NWA.
Well, yeah, I was about Harley didn't pay for it. Baba paid for
it. Yeah. Charles W. Lay, retired former NWA light heavyweight champion, lives in what southern city?
Jackson, Mississippi.
There you go. Jackson, Mississippi. Very good. True or false? In 828 AD, Emperor Buntaku of Japan decreed that his sons would wrestle to determine who would become the heir to his throne.
That was false. It was Emperor Bukaki.
That is false. This is true. It's not Emperor Bukaki.
I swear it was. They had a big fight over who got the... Never mind. Anyway.
Here's one of my favorite quotes from a wrestler in a promo that's now in this question. Who was the first wrestler to reverse the figure 4 leg lock on Jack Briscoe?
On Jack Briscoe?
It says on Jack Briscoe, but the wrestler I'm thinking of, the reason I laugh was every promo he ever mentioned this, he claimed that he just did it. I was the first wrestler to get out of the figure 4 leg lock. And then later on, he just started messing up like, I was the first wrestler to figure 4 arm lock. Like he just...
Well, the first person theoretically to reverse the figure 4 leg grapevine, according to the famous angle, was Buddy Rogers got reversed by Cowboy Bob Ellis, right?
I believe so. But this is does mention Jack Briscoe, though.
But that mentions Jack Briscoe, and I'm trying to think who they would have done. It wasn't Dory Funk Jr.
Don Morocco.
Don Morocco, that's right. When 1974 in Florida, when he was a babyface, right?
That's right.
Or was it?
I think so.
And Briscoe, he had a title match with Briscoe, because they wouldn't have let just a schlub heel reverse Briscoe. So it was Morocco for an angle.
All right, 3 more questions here. True or false? Phil the Mortician Lito and Mike the Mystic C. LeBron won the main event of Grapplefest 1 in Munich, West Germany in 1953.
That is complete blather.
That is false. Let me go now to this one. In April of 1969, see, how would anyone get this? Who were billed as the world's biggest tag team?
Wait a minute. Haystacks Calhoun and Man Mountain Mike?
You got it. Wow. How'd you get it?
Because they were the world's biggest tag team.
Was it on the front cover of one of the London publishing magazines?
No, there was a story. But I remember that because Man Mountain Mike was like the West Coast version of Haystacks Calhoun when Haystacks' career was winding down, right? He'd been big out in California, so no pun intended. So they found Man Mountain Mike, who was even bigger. But as Mike was starting, and that was 1969, Calhoun was done by 77. So they Mike came up to take some of those spots, but they got the bright idea to book them as a tag team so that they could be the world's largest tag team, but you couldn't do anything with either one. So it was just an attraction thing. It wasn't regular.
Jim, true or false, wrestler Hector Guerrero is the brother of L.A. Dodger star Pedro Guerrero?
It would be true, except it's false.
That is false. And our last question here today, where does a scaffold match take place?
Somewhere that Jim Cornette is not.
That is correct. The answer, atop a scaffold.
Yeah.
And with that, we have wrapped up the show.